Hello everyone. What I'm going to do now is show you how to do assignment 1 using SPSS. But before we get started with that part of the assignment, I'd like you to click on assignment 1 and under resources I notice that this is the grades.to or grades.save data file. This is an SPSS data file, and you can't open this unless you have SPSS installed on your computer. The other thing I'd like you to do is download the data set instructions. So I'm going to close the course room, and you'll notice now that I have the SPSS data file loaded. And this is what that data file should look like once you open it in SPSS. Before we do the analysis, I was going to show you how to code or label categorical variables. So we can look at the gender variable, and you notice from the data set instructions that female should be labeled 1 and male should be labeled 2. And so if we close that out and go back to our SPSS data sheet, we want to click on variable view, and we want to make sure that gender is saved as a selected as a numeric variable. And for our values, we'll click in this cell and on the little gray square, and we're going to put a 1 in the value box and then female in the label box and add, and then 2 in the value box and male in the label box and add, and then OK. So now when you do your analysis, your variables will be labeled by male and female. So the first analysis that your assignment asks you to do is create a histogram. So to create that histogram using the total scores by male and female, we're going to go to Graph, Legacy Dialogues, and Histogram. And I'm going to reset this. And then what we'll do is in the variable box, we'll put our dependent variable, total. That's the total test scores for everyone. And then in the rows box, we'll put in gender. And then we're going to click Display Normal Curve. And then we'll click on OK. And what you should see is your output should look something like this. Notice you have the distribution of total scores for females and the distribution of total scores for males. Now, if you did not label your variable, your gender variable, male and female, the 1s and the 2s, as I showed you at the beginning of the presentation, you'd have a 1 here and a 2 here instead of the label of female and male. The next part of the assignment asks you to find and use SPSS to obtain the descriptive statistics. So we can go to Analyze, Descriptives, and Descriptives. And we can move total into the variable box, and under Options, we have the standard deviation checked, the minimum, the maximum, so the lowest score, the highest score, the mean, and then the kurtosis and skewness. The kurtosis tells us something about how peaked the data is, and the skewness tells us how the data is pushed towards the top end of the distribution or the bottom end of the distribution, whether it has a positive skew or a negative skew. And then we go Continue and OK. So this information is here. So our mean is 100.57 with a standard deviation of 15.299. Our skewedness value is 0.83, and our kurtosis value is 0.94. To interpret these values, you have to divide the standard error into the statistic. So if we divide that standard error into this statistic, it's about 0.2. And what we're concerned about is any values of skewedness or kurtosis that exceed plus or minus 2 are problematic. Now, one other thing you can do to get the descriptive statistics is you can go to Descriptives and Explore. And in this case, you can get a full histogram. Let's see, for the total scores. So this is a histogram that does not have, it's not divided by males and females. And in this case, we want the plots, but I want just the histogram plots because those are seem to be the most informative. And so then we can click on OK. And again, this gives us the overall mean, the standard deviation, the variance, and then we get a plot for all the scores together. This is our box plot, and this also is a different way to view how skewed or how peaked our data is, and it also helps us to identify outliers. It's more identifying the skewedness or the distribution of scores about the middle of the distribution than it is about peakedness. It's pretty difficult to see peakedness with this kind of a graph as compared to a histogram. Now, one other thing we can do is we can go to Analyze, Descriptives, Explore again, and if we want to have our information broken out by gender, we can move gender to the factor list, and then we can go OK. And now we have a table that gives us much, much more information than we probably need. But you see for the females, the total mean score is 102.03. The median is 103. The standard deviation is 13.896. The skewedness and kurtosis values. Skewedness is negative 0.925. Kurtosis is 1.958. And you can see the same information for the males. So this first histogram and piece of information I provided is males and females lumped together as one large group. The second piece of the analysis is females and males separated. And then we have a histogram by female and a histogram by male. It's very similar to what you did when you used the legacy dialogues. Okay, I hope this helps. Please let me know if you have questions. I can answer those questions, and I'm happy to help at any time.